Hey everybody and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at grandkid scams. And we're going to try to give you like the real cheat sheet from the government on how to stop them before they even start and how to spot them if you're worried about someone in your family. So we've got this really great resource that we're working from. It's a government website that's all about giving advice to consumers. And this specific page we're looking at is all about grandkid and family scams. It's really interesting because I feel like so many of the scams that we talk about and that we hear about are all about like fancy technology and hacking and tricking people with like super advanced technological tricks. But
Yeah, what's interesting here is that this is all about really exploiting a much deeper and more powerful thing than that. It's really about your love for your family and tapping into that instinct to protect your grandkids.
Right.
And that's what makes this so dangerous.
Yeah, and I think it's also scary because it's so much harder to protect yourself from that than from technology.
Yeah.
Like I can try to make sure that my passwords are all strong or that I'm not clicking on links in emails that look suspicious or whatever.
Yeah.
But how do you protect yourself from someone who is playing on your emotions in that way? I think it's something that we all worry about. So let's get into it. How do these scams actually work? How do they play out?
So just imagine this. Your phone rings. And it's someone who sounds just like your grandchild. They're totally panicked. They say that they've gotten into an accident or maybe they've been arrested. And they desperately need money for bail or a lawyer or for medical bills. And they might even be sobbing on the phone or sound totally terrified.
Oh my gosh. I can see how you just, your heart would just sink into your stomach. And you would want to do whatever you could to help them.
Exactly, and to make things worse. They might even be pleading with you to keep it a secret from their parents. Maybe they're embarrassed or they're afraid of getting into more trouble. And so this demand for secrecy is a really key part of this scam because it really isolates you and prevents you from verifying the story with anyone else who could see through the deception.
Right, like they're cutting off your support system when you need it the most. That's so scary. But what if you recognize their voice? Wouldn't that be enough to know that it's really them?
Well, that's where it gets even trickier. These scammers, they're really masters of manipulation, and they can use details gleaned from your social media or from hacked email accounts to make their story sound incredibly believable. So maybe they know your grandchild's name, where they go to school, or even some event that they recently attended.
Right.
And all of this very specific information, it kind of plays on a psychological phenomenon called confirmation bias, which is basically this tendency our brains have to latch onto details that confirm our existing beliefs, which makes us way less likely to question things that already seem to fit the narrative.
Right. So even if there's a party that's wait a minute, this feels a little off.
Yeah.
But then they drop in that detail that is so specific.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, well, they couldn't possibly know that unless they were really my grandchild.
Exactly.
It's scary. They're weaponizing your love against you.
Exactly. And they're relying on the fact that when we're emotionally distressed, our critical thinking skills go out the window.
Yeah.
We're more likely to make decisions without thinking, especially when we think someone that we love is in danger.
They're creating this sense of urgency. They're creating this crisis that needs your immediate action so that you don't stop and think rationally. That's really evil.
It is, but knowing how these scams work is the first step in protecting yourself and your loved ones.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about how these scammers get us pulled into their web of lies. But what can we actually do to protect ourselves? It's one thing to say, oh, don't fall for it. But when you're in the thick of it and you have someone on the other end of the line who sounds like your grandchild and who is pleading for your help, how do you stay calm and rational in that moment?
You're right, and that's why having a plan in place beforehand is so important. It's kind of like having a fire drill. You practice what to do so that when those alarm bells go off, you don't panic. And in this case, your fire drill is simple. Verify, verify, verify.
Ooh, I like that. Verify, verify, verify. Okay, so if someone calls me claiming to be my grandchild and they're in trouble, what's the first thing that I should do?
So the most important thing is to really resist that urge to react immediately. Remember, scammers, they thrive on urgency. They want you to make a quick decision without thinking things through, instead of giving into that pressure. Just tell the caller that you need a few minutes to collect your thoughts or, to whatever.
Okay, so take a deep breath and say, okay, give me 5 minutes. I need to go do something or whatever.
Exactly. And then use that time to verify.
Okay, so how do I verify?
So the most important thing here is to establish contact with your grandchild or another family member independently. Don't rely on any phone number or any contact information that's provided by the caller.
Yeah.
If they say, "Oh, I'm calling from my friend's phone," don't take their word for it.
So I should hang up
Mm.
and call my grandchild directly at a number that I already have, or call their parents?
Exactly. Even if you think you recognize their voice, that moment of pause to reach out through a trusted channel
Hmm.
can make all the difference.
Right.
It breaks the scammer's hold on the situation and allows you to get a clear picture of what's actually happening.
Wow, that's such a simple but powerful tip. It's
Ah.
really about like taking back control
Mm.
from the scammer.
Mhm.
And it's not just about protecting ourselves, right? It's about making sure that we are sharing this information
Mm.
with other people who might be vulnerable to these scams.
Absolutely. Think about like your parents, your grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, anyone who might be targeted. Talk to them about these scams, share this verification strategy, and empower them to take control if they ever find themselves in this situation. You could be preventing a lot of heartache and financial devastation.
I love that. Empowering others, right? Knowledge is power. Oh, what is like the one big takeaway that you want our listeners to remember from this deep dive?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that these scams, they work because they play on our emotions.
Mm.
They play on our love for our family and our desire to help. But by taking a moment to pause and verify that information and report anything suspicious, we can really take back control.
That moment of pause.
I-
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah,
Even when your heartstrings are being pulled, just take that moment to think critically.
exactly.
Rough.
And remember, it's not just about protecting ourselves. It's also about sharing this knowledge with our loved ones,
Mhm.
especially those who might be more vulnerable. Together, we can create this network of informed individuals who can resist these scams.
Yeah, that's a great point to end on. It's really about taking action, spreading awareness, and looking out for one another. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on this deep dive. And remember, stay informed, stay vigilant, and stay safe.